name's David Alberts, co-founder of Been There, Done That, and this is the next in our series of where we discuss Been There, Done That, where next. And the premise of which we're discussing this, or the context, is what got us here is not going to get us where we need to be. And today, we're very lucky to have Craig Elimeliah, who's the Chief Creative Officer of Liberty Taylor Group. And this is an interesting one. This is creative to creative, right? So feels like old school can when two creatives sit down. But listen, thanks so much for joining us. And
Thanks
rather than me introducing you, tell me where have you been and what have you done to get to this point?
Wow. A lot of places, a lot of things. I think I actually have one of the more unique career trajectories. I actually started off being a digital designer and a kind of a hacker. You know, it was sort of the onset of the internet. There was just a handful of kids in New York City that understood how to sort of manipulate the internet in a way that kind of resonated in culture. We saw it as a canvas. And that's what I just started doing, just kind of like riffing ideas, and that quickly, parlayed itself into, I think I can make money doing this, and so I started building experiences online. Now, I wouldn't even say websites, I'd say like experiences way back, and really thinking about how the internet could just change the way brands interact with consumers. And I had a vision and I saw into the future, and so that kind of got me in the industry. Once I got a foothold in the industry, I was a young designer, a young producer working in a small but hot firm called Firstborn. Dentsu had bought them, and they're not around anymore, but we were doing the best work in the business. I mean, we were really transforming the internet into a place where brands can really tell their stories in unique ways. And a lot of the work that I was doing was just, there was no playbook for it. There were no rules. And in many cases, I can look back and I can show you instances where it was the very first time that thing was done. So I sort of gained notoriety and recognition around that. And then, you know what happens? The agencies start calling because you're the hot kid on the block. And then that's kind of how I got into this world. I started off at JWT. Did some great work there, and then I moved on to Omnicom. I spent a fair amount of years there, and I really helped me grow as a creative and really helped me orient myself, because I always wore many hats. A lot of people tell you I'm a stronger strategist than I am a creative. Some people say I'm a better technologist than I am a strategist. I think I'm a better creative than all those things. But it's been a great journey, and luckily I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by companies, agencies that gave me the runway to just be who I was. And I was most recently at VML I was there for about 8 years, close to 9 years, and so grateful to have the opportunity to have been part of that success and to have my fingerprints on, a story of a small digital agency subsuming every other agency in the network, and having a front row seat. And I think that's kind of where that led me. That kind of led me to where I am today.
Very good. So coming on that journey, what's the biggest problem that you see in the industry right now?
I think the biggest problem we're facing, and this is a dual problem, both client and agency, is we all, at the altitude we're here in Cannes, we're world class, we're the best of the best. At that altitude, we're all really good. We're all really good creatives, we're really good strategists. And clients like to surround themselves with smart people, but there's a lack of connectivity that's happening amongst all these sparse and disparate activities, right? My agency is off doing like really interesting, earned first creative ideas, customer experience. Ogilvy might be off doing creative or these, and we're all doing really nice work, but it doesn't speak to one another. We're not connected in the sense that there needs to be an orchestration that allows a consumer to look at a campaign or look at a brand and inherently understand what every touch point is doing. There needs to be a role and a goal for every single channel. And whenever there's a break in the continuity around that, consumers back off. They're just like, there's something wrong here. They have a spidey sense, right? And we know that advertising is dead, as we know it, right? Like, I think right now we're sort of shifting to this kind of like, we're not screaming at people, we're not beating the drum, we're earning relationships, earning engagement, earning the right to be able to tell our stories. And in doing that, we provide value as brands. But you cannot earn the right to be a part of a consumer's life if you put the burden of ownership on them. If they have to figure out how things work, the consumer has to figure out how things work, then you failed, right? I'm not signaling anyone out. I'm using P&G as an example because they're the most well-known big swath of brands. You know, if P&G was able to be looked at as a ecosystem of value, and instead of putting the burden on the consumer to figure out how all these products work within their life, I believe P&G as the holding company could be the sort of soulful curator in taking that burden off the consumer and saying, this is how the ecosystem works. So instead of the advertising community and the marketing community looking like the segmented or segregated shelf, it needs to look more like the consumer's bathroom cabinet where everything's together, right? We experience brands together, and there's sort of this inherent lack of interoperability amongst brands that is so natural in our lives. Our kitchen tables have 10 different brands sitting there. And again, we have to figure out how it all works. It's up to the agencies and the brands to take the burden off the consumer, to be able to set the expectations for the experiences people are going to have. And whenever there's a delta between the expectation and the experience, those are opportunities to become really close to the consumer because you're delivering value in a place that needs the value. So I really believe that's the job to be done right now, the biggest problem in the industry right now.
And so if you were to imagine where this could go,
yeah,
where do you imagine in a world where this starts to work?
Well, you know, just a year ago, the hottest word was Metaverse. And I think Metaverse, because of the crypto debacle, got a bad rap. And I do think that the Metaverse is not a technical, physical, digital interact. It is a theory in which a brand has a universe of communications, products, services, support, you name it. All of the touch points within a brand's ecosystem is a metaverse of them. And when a consumer understands that this is connected to this, is connected to this, and will buy something because they inherently know that there's a direct channel for support, or a direct channel for community, or a direct channel for entertainment, doesn't matter. But in helping them understand, again, taking the burden off of them and helping them understand the expectation of what the ecosystem of value consists of, game over. Game over. At that point, we now have a true relationship where we're building things and we're providing value, and in exchange for value, we're earning trust, and that trust allows us to have relationships, and the relationships become what we all hope and dream for, which is sales and revenue and engagement and all that good stuff that comes out of it.
So how does it work? Help me understand. As a consumer or as a citizen,
Yeah.
I might one day buy this brand, or another day buy this, or I might like the razor of this one, but
Right.
the shaving cream of this
Right.
one. How in this brand-centric control world does that work in the real world?
Well, I think we have to. It's a great question. I think we have to look at the landscape. We now have a unprecedented myriad of channels, platforms, touch points, you name it. And technology has gotten to the point where it's invisible enough where anyone can access most of this stuff, barring strapping a thing to your face, right? Like everything is pretty accessible, right? And we have generations of people now that have grown up in this omni-channel world, right? I believe that brands need to, again, take the burden off of the consumer, allow them to curate the experience that they want to have with you. And if that includes another brand being involved, so be it. You know, there's a really interesting word that came out of the Web3 world that I love, and I apply it to just the real world. It's called interoperability. Interoperability.
Okay.
Now, the idea of interoperability in the Web3 world is that your digital asset can live almost anywhere. I think brands need to be interoperable. I think if a consumer chooses to engage with a brand, yet also want to engage with another brand at the same time, the same way our closets look, so be it. We should have that freedom of curation, and what I think we're starting to see in places like TikTok and these micro communities is the conditions where people are bringing these things together, but they're doing it, not the brands. And if you allow the communities to do it without the partnership of the brands, you lose the narrative and you may not show up the way they need you to show up. And so that's where I feel we can do a much better job in guiding our clients and guiding the brands that we shepherd through these uncharted waters, to start to really put the consumer at the core, to start to really think about their journey, not with you only, but with all of the entities that they align their values to. Because we know today's consumer doesn't buy a brand out of need. They buy a brand because the brand aligns to their values. It's a signal to the world of who they are. So if we believe that to be true, then what I'm saying is true. That we need to do a better job in understanding how to create the conditions under which they can feel in control and not feel forced to do something that falls outside of the realm of values, value and values, behavior, lifestyle. You know, I mean, today people live on a spectrum of identity. You know, we live in a dynamic world where, you know, you're a basketball fan 1 second, and then you're a prudent business person looking to like get a deal on accounting services the next. We live on a spectrum of identity, and again, like, brands need to respect that spectrum of needs, moments, motivation. All of those things are the building blocks of ecosystems of value.
Very interesting, very interesting. So very quickly, in
Yes.
one sentence, the first step we should take to go on this journey.
We need to have a shared vision for this. We need to really align on how can we best serve our clients as agencies. Right now, we're all fighting for the same share of attention. We are servants. We like to serve our clients. We like to bring them ideas, make them come to life, and we're all craving their attention. We're all craving the same share of attention. We need to grow up a little bit, and we need to realize that each one of us is a very vital cog in a much bigger ecosystem, that it is our responsibility to connect, right? If we put the burden of connection onto our clients, it's the same way we're putting the burden of ownership onto our customers. It's wrong. It's not being a good partner. So to be our best partner to our client, we need to be best partners with one another.
Correct. Partnership, I think, is a very important
partnership.
Listen, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time,
Of
really.
course.
And remind me of that word.
Interoperability.
Interoperability. I think that's something that I've got to practice saying, but I think it's very, very interesting.
Say it 5 times quick.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, listen, really nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.